I stood frozen at the doorway, my fingers trembling around the message I had just read. Family meeting tomorrow. Come alone. We need to resolve this, once and for all. There was no greeting. No please. No hope you're okay. Just a command. Just like always. I hadn't even stepped inside the house yet, but I already knew this was going to be another trap. My name is Lily. I'm 29 years old. And a few weeks ago, my life changed in the most unexpected way. My grandfather died. I loved him more than anyone in the world. He wasn't just an old man to me. He was my guide, my protector, my teacher. And when he passed, he left everything he owned to me. The businesses, the buildings, the land, the money, everything. He left nothing to my mother. That's when the war began. The day after the funeral, she showed up at my apartment in her shiny car with tinted windows, wearing a black dress like she was still grieving. But she wasn't crying. Her eyes weren't red. Her hands weren't shaking. No, she was calm. Too calm. You need to sign everything over to me, she said, standing at my door like a queen talking to a servant. This isn't right. You know that. I looked at her and felt something inside me twist. No. That one word flipped a switch in her face. The fake sadness vanished. Her voice dropped. Then you've made a big mistake. I didn't understand the full meaning of her words at that moment. But I would. I really would. Back when I was a little girl, I used to spend hours sitting beside Grandpa in his study. He had this big old wooden desk covered with papers and pens, and tiny calculators that made little beeps. While other kids my age played video games or watched cartoons, I loved sitting beside him while he showed me how numbers told stories. He'd say things like, "See this chart? It shows me if we're doing well, if people are buying, if workers are being paid right. Every number tells a truth, Lily." I listened. I learned. I loved every moment. But my mother hated it. She would walk past the room, roll her eyes, and say, "That old man is filling your head with nonsense. Go outside. Be normal." She never stayed long in any room. She was always on the move, always rushing somewhere, dragging bags full of expensive things. She changed phones every few months. Her nails were always freshly painted, and her perfume arrived before she did. Our house was beautiful on the outside. A big front door, trimmed hedges, shiny floors. But inside, it was full of noise. Arguments. Slamming doors. Tears hidden behind fake laughter. And debt. So much debt. I was only 12 when I heard them whispering about the second mortgage. At night, I would sneak out of my room and hear Grandpa arguing with her in the kitchen. "I gave you money for the bills, Patricia. Where did it go? Don't start with me, Dad. You don't understand how hard it is. Jason needs a new tutor. Rachel wants piano lessons. And I deserve a break, too. You can't keep spending what you don't have. I can't live like a peasant, if that's what you're saying." Peasant. That's what she called people who lived simply. Grandpa never raised his voice, but his silence afterward was louder than anything. He loved us all, but I could see it even back then. He didn't trust her with money. Not anymore. He started spending more time with me. When I turned 13, he said, "You're coming to work with me this weekend." Work? Yes. You need to see what hard work really looks like. That Saturday, we went to one of his stores. It wasn't a huge place, just a little corner hardware shop with wooden floors and the smell of sawdust and paint. But everyone there knew his name. They smiled when they saw him. They respected him. I sat behind the counter and watched as he helped customers, gave advice, and even cleaned up spills on the floor himself. "No job is too small," he told me. "If you want people to respect you, show them you're not afraid to get your hands dirty." That's how it started. Every Saturday after that, I was there with him. I learned how to balance books, check inventory, speak kindly to customers, and still run a business with strength. And through it all, he kept saying, "You've got something special, Lily. I see it. Don't ever forget who you are." I never did. Years passed. I graduated high school. I told him I wanted to study business in college. He was so proud. "I'll pay for it," he said. But then my mother stepped in. Suddenly, the money Grandpa promised was gone. "Jason needs surgery," she said. "And Rachel's therapy isn't cheap. This is a family emergency." It wasn't true. I later found out Jason only had a small dental issue, and Rachel's therapy was a spa trip with her friends. I ended up working at a bookstore and taking out student loans. Grandpa found out. He was so angry, not at me but at himself. "I should have known," he said one day, visiting me at work. "She's never going to change." From then on, he would visit the bookstore every other week, pretending to shop, slipping envelopes of cash into my bag. "Just for books," he'd say, winking. "Nothing else." He was my secret angel. Then, one day, everything changed. He got sick. Heart problems. He was still sharp, still himself, but weaker. He started walking slower, talking softer, sitting longer. And one day, as I sat beside his hospital bed, he held my hand tighter than ever before and whispered, "I've made decisions, Lily. Big ones. And when I'm gone, people won't be happy." I didn't know what he meant, but I nodded anyway. "Don't let them take what I've built. Promise me." "I promise." He smiled, and then, a few weeks later, he was gone. The funeral was filled with people, friends, old employees, even strangers who said he once helped them during hard times. My mother wore black and cried, but I knew her well enough to know when her tears were real. These weren't. 2 weeks after the funeral, we sat in a dark room at the lawyer's office. The man opened a folder and began to read. To my housekeeper, he gave a pension. To some old friends, small gifts. Then he got to the end. "To my granddaughter Lily, I leave the remainder of my estate, including my business holdings, properties, and financial assets." The room went silent. Then everything exploded. My mother slammed her hand on the table. "This is a joke. He wouldn't do this to me." The lawyer calmly adjusted his glasses. "There's no mistake. He was sick. He was of sound mind." Rachel started crying. Jason looked at the ground. Greg just mumbled something about loyalty. I couldn't even breathe. Outside, my mother blocked my way to the car. "Sign it over," she said. "Do the right thing. This is what Grandpa wanted." "No." He was confused. "And you took advantage of that." "I didn't. You'll regret this." Then she turned and walked away. I stood in the parking lot, shaking. The next few days were like falling into a hole I couldn't climb out of. The phone calls, the messages, the looks from neighbors, the whispers. "You're greedy. You betrayed your family. You only cared about the money." Even people who barely knew me suddenly had something to say. I tried to stay strong, but inside I was breaking. Noah found me crying on the floor of our apartment. I had locked the door, turned off my phone, sat in the dark. He sat beside me and held me without saying a word. Then, finally, I told him everything. He listened, and when I was done, he said, "You did the right thing, even if it doesn't feel like it now." I wanted to believe him, but I was scared, really scared, especially now, standing in front of the house where it all began, waiting to walk into a family meeting that didn't feel like a meeting at all. It felt like a trap, but this time, I wasn't the same Lily. This time, I had something more powerful than fear. I had the truth, and I was ready to face them. I walked up the front steps slowly, each one heavier than the last. The house looked the same. The brown bricks, the white door, the small welcome mat that used to say, "Home is where the heart is," now old and faded. But it didn't feel like home anymore. I used to run through this door as a little girl, laughing, with my backpack flying behind me. Grandpa would sit in the chair by the window and wave. My mother would barely look up from her phone. Now, I was walking into a battlefield. I opened the door. My heart was beating so fast I thought I could hear it in my ears. My mother stood in the hallway waiting. "Right on time," she said with that fake smile she always wore when guests were around. It never reached her eyes. She wore a red dress with shiny buttons. Her nails were painted dark purple, and her hair was curled like she had just come from a salon. She looked prepared. I took a deep breath and stepped in. "In the living room," she said, turning around. "Everyone's waiting." The house smelled like vanilla and strong perfume. I followed her down the hallway, the walls lined with pictures, but none of Grandpa. When I stepped into the living room, I froze. My stepdad Greg stood by the fireplace, arms crossed. My sister Rachel sat on one end of the couch, legs crossed, face stiff. My brother Jason sat quietly on the other end, looking down at his hands. But what shocked me were the 2 men in suits sitting in the armchairs, the ones Grandpa used to sit in while reading the newspaper. One of the men smiled at me. Lily, so glad you could join us. I nodded, but didn't smile back. Lily, my mother said, standing beside the coffee table like it was a courtroom. These are Mr. Benson and Mr. Lee. They're helping us with some important decisions. I stayed standing. I wasn't told there would be lawyers. They're not lawyers, she said quickly. Just legal advisors, here to guide us through some paperwork. I looked at Jason. He didn't meet my eyes. I looked at Rachel. She rolled her eyes and looked away. Greg said nothing. The only seat left was a small, hard-backed chair in the middle of the room, facing all of them. Like I was on trial. I sat slowly and placed my brown leather folder on my lap. I didn't say anything. I wanted to hear what they had planned. Would you like something to drink? My mother asked sweetly. Coffee? Tea? No, thank you. She nodded, like I was being difficult, then turned to Mr. Benson, who cleared his throat. Lily, he began, folding his hands. We all know your grandfather's passing has been difficult on everyone. And this situation, the inheritance, it's a heavy weight to carry, especially for someone your age. I'm managing just fine, I said calmly. My mother gave a small laugh. Oh, Lily, no one's saying you can't handle it. But it's not fair for the whole family to be cut out. I turned to her. Grandpa made his wishes clear. But he was sick, Rachel jumped in. He wasn't thinking straight. He was thinking fine, I replied. He updated the will 6 months before he died. He was sharp. I was with him. That's exactly the problem, Greg said. You were always with him, whispering in his ear, controlling him. That's not true. Mr. Lee opened a folder and pulled out some papers. We've come up with a solution, he said. One that keeps things peaceful. One that honors the family. He slid the papers across the coffee table toward me. I didn't touch them. This is a redistribution agreement, Mr. Benson said. You keep a portion, say 20%. The rest goes to your mother, who has more experience managing a household. I almost laughed. And the businesses? I asked. Sold, said Mr. Lee. The money divided equally. Everyone wins. Jason needs help with college, my mother added quickly. Rachel's in debt. Greg and I are behind on our mortgage. I looked at Jason. He looked uncomfortable. What debt? I asked. What happened to the money Grandpa gave you last year? My mother waved her hand. That went to house repairs. Really? I said quietly, because I remember a brand new car in your driveway 2 months ago. She glared at me. I picked up the papers slowly, flipped through them, read a few lines, and then set them back down. This is a complete takeover, I said. You want everything, not just a portion. That's not true, Rachel said. We just want what's fair. What's fair, I said, is what Grandpa wanted. Don't be selfish, Greg snapped. I turned to him. You mean like planning to buy a house in Florida before Grandpa was even gone? Greg's mouth dropped open. I have the call recorded, I said. You said it yourself. My mother's face turned red. That's a lie, she hissed. Then you won't mind if I play the recording. The room went silent. I opened my folder and pulled out a printed transcript. Grandpa gave you over $300,000 in the last 5 years, I said, placing the paper on the table. For bills, for school fees, for car repairs. But you used it on vacations, spa retreats, shopping. You don't know what you're talking about, my mother said. I have the proof, I replied. I have his journal. I have his letters. I have the receipts. Mr. Benson and Mr. Lee shifted uncomfortably. This is not how we hoped this meeting would go, Mr. Lee said. I'm sure it's not, I said. Greg stepped forward. You think you're so smart. You're just a girl with a degree. You think you're better than us. No, I said, standing up. I don't think I'm better. I just think Grandpa trusted me, and he had every reason to. You tricked him, Rachel cried. You used him. No, I said. I listened to him. I respected him. That's the difference. Mr. Benson leaned forward. Lily, if you don't sign, your family may have no choice but to contest the will. Accuse you of manipulation. Say your grandfather wasn't of sound mind. Then I'll see you in court, I said. You really want to drag this through court? My mother asked, voice cold now. You want the world to see our family like this. You already did that, I said. You made this a war. Not me. Greg raised his voice. You don't scare us. I'm not trying to, I said. But I'm also not giving in. I picked up my folder, walked to the door, and turned around one last time. You had your chance. You chose greed. I'm choosing peace. Jason stood up. Lily, wait. I paused. Everyone looked at him. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't know how bad it was. I didn't know they lied. It's okay, I whispered. You're not like them. I'm coming with you. Jason, my mother yelled. But he walked past her, grabbed his backpack from the corner, and stood beside me. If you leave now, don't come back, she shouted. Jason didn't say anything. We walked out together. The door slammed behind us. Loud. Final. Outside, the wind was cold, but my heart felt warm for the first time in weeks. You okay? I asked him. No, he said. But I will be. I nodded. We walked to my car in silence. Not just siblings anymore, but survivors. The trap had been set, but this time, I wasn't the one caught in it. We drove in silence most of the way home. Jason sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, his hands tucked under his arms like he was holding himself together. The sky was gray. The air felt heavy. I could hear his breathing, slow and shaky. I wanted to say something. I wanted to ask if he was okay, but I didn't want to break the silence if he wasn't ready. We stopped at a red light, and that's when he finally spoke. She said if I walked out with you, I could forget about being her son. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. She didn't mean it, I said. Jason looked at me. Yes, she did. He didn't cry, but I could see it in his face. The way his jaw was tight, the way he blinked too often. He was holding everything in. She was always nicer to Rachel, he said after a while. Always treated me like I was just part of the furniture. Only noticed me when she needed me to clean or fix something. I didn't know what to say. I had felt it too growing up. The way Mom gave her attention like it was a reward. One moment you were her favorite, the next invisible. I believed her, he whispered, when she said you were greedy. That Grandpa only left you the money because you sweet-talked him. I shook my head. I didn't sweet-talk anyone. I just listened. I know, he said. I see it now. I'm sorry I didn't before. I reached across and squeezed his arm. You're here now. That's what matters. He looked back out the window. Where are we going? Home. He raised an eyebrow. Your apartment. Our apartment now. His lips pressed together, and he gave a small nod. Thanks. That night, I set up the pull-out couch for him and gave him fresh towels. I even handed him Grandpa's old blanket, the soft gray one he used to keep folded at the end of his bed. Jason ran his hand over it slowly. I remember this, he said. He used to let me nap under it when I was sick. He loved you, I told him. Yeah, he said quietly. I know that now. I let him rest while I stepped into my room and closed the door. I sat on my bed, heart pounding. The meeting had gone worse than I imagined. But something had changed. For the first time, I wasn't alone. Later that night, when the apartment was quiet and Jason had fallen asleep, I opened Grandpa's journal again. I flipped through pages of his handwriting. Neat, clear, thoughtful. He had written everything down. Every dollar he gave to Mom. Every lie she told. Every time she promised to pay him back and didn't. One line made me stop. Patricia believes love is something you buy. I tried to teach her different, but maybe I failed her. I ran my fingers over the words. And just above it, in the corner of the page, he'd written, But Lily understands. I closed the book and held it to my chest. I missed him so much. The next day, I called Claire, my lawyer. She answered right away. Lily, I need to talk. Everything okay? I need to protect myself, I said. And Jason. We met at her office the next afternoon. It was a small space with white walls, soft chairs, and a desk full of neatly stacked files. Claire listened as I explained everything, the threats, the pressure, the way they tried to trick me into signing over everything. She took notes, nodded, and asked a few sharp questions. I want to take action, I told her. Not just wait for them to come after me again. Claire leaned back. That's wise. You've already documented a lot, which is good. But if they try anything legal, we'll need more. I have Grandpa's letter, I said. And his journal. Perfect. Those are strong. She gave me a list of things to do: change my locks, install cameras, and move all of Grandpa's original documents to a fireproof safe. I'll also reach out to the probate court, she added, just in case they try to challenge the will. What happens if they do? They'll claim undue influence. That you tricked your grandfather when he was weak. He wasn't weak, I said. He was sharper than anyone I know. I believe you, Claire said. But we'll need proof. Medical records. Witnesses. Anything that shows he was thinking clearly. I remembered something. His best friend, George, I said. He might help. Reach out to him, Claire said. Every little bit helps. That night I called George. He was in his 70s, but his voice was still strong and warm. Lily, he said. I was wondering when you call. I need help, I said. We met the next day at a quiet cafe. George wore his usual sweater vest and flat cap. He hugged me tightly and said, "You're handling this better than most grown men I've seen." "Thank you," I said, "but I feel like I'm breaking inside." He smiled kindly. "That means you're human." I told him about the meeting, the threats, the way they tried to trick me into signing everything over. He didn't look surprised. "Your grandfather knew this would happen," George said. "That's why he planned so carefully." He did. He told me everything. How he wanted you to have the estate. How he knew your mother would fight it. How he wished he could fix her, but couldn't. I felt my throat tighten. "He even gave me something for you," George added, reaching into his jacket. He pulled out a white envelope, slightly bent at the corners. "Told me to give it to you if things got ugly." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. "Lily, if you're reading this, it means Patricia reacted the way I feared she would. But I want you to remember, this isn't your fault. You didn't take anything from her. You were given this because you earned it. I watched you grow, and I trust you completely. Stand firm. Be brave. You're stronger than you know. I love you. Grandpa." Tears fell down my cheeks before I even finished reading. George placed his hand over mine. He meant every word. I nodded slowly, the paper pressed to my heart. I was ready now. The following week, I changed the locks on Grandpa's house. I hadn't moved in yet, but I planned to soon. I set up cameras, organized the files, and bought a small safe. Jason helped with everything. He carried boxes, cleaned out the old study, and even started reading Grandpa's old business notes. "I think I want to study business," he told me one evening. I looked up from the folder I was organizing. "Really?" He nodded. "I never paid attention before, but now it feels important. Like I want to help continue what he started." A smile formed on my face. "Then we'll do it together," I said. We started spending weekends at the store, visiting employees, checking reports, learning how everything worked. I wasn't just protecting the business anymore. I was becoming part of it. But deep inside, I knew this wasn't the end. Mom hadn't given up. She was quiet now. Too quiet. And that scared me more than anything. It started with a text. No greeting. No warmth. Just this. Family meeting. Sunday. 3 p.m. Be there. Bring your ID and banking details. Don't delay. I read the message over and over again. Then I read it again. She didn't say please. She didn't ask. She told me. Like I was still a child who needed to obey her every word. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. Banking details. I said it out loud, but there was no one in the room to answer. Jason had gone out for groceries. I was home alone. I could feel it. She was planning something. This wasn't just another guilt trip. This was something else. Something bigger. Something darker. I showed the message to Claire. "This feels like a setup," she said right away. I nodded. "She's trying something before the time runs out, isn't she?" Claire tapped her pen against her notebook. "Most likely. The 30-day window to contest the will ends next week. She's either trying to rush a challenge or trick you into signing something." "I'm not signing anything." "Good," she said. "But don't go alone." Noah offered to come with me. Jason too. But I said no. "If I bring anyone," I told them, "she'll say I'm hiding behind other people. This needs to be me facing them." Claire agreed. "Then I'll wait in the car. Nearby. If anything feels off, send me the word now. I'll come in immediately." The day of the meeting, the sky was too bright. The sun was shining, the air was warm, and birds were chirping like it was a normal, happy day. It made my stomach turn. I dressed carefully. A navy blazer, white blouse, and simple black pants. My hair was tied neatly. No makeup except lip balm. I didn't want to look like someone coming for a fight. I wanted to look like someone who was already in control. Before I left, Jason gave me a small notebook. Inside were all the handwritten copies of messages Mom had sent. Every threat, every insult, every guilt trip. Just in case, he said. Thanks, I whispered, squeezing his hand. At 2:58 p.m., I pulled into the driveway. Claire's car was already parked down the street. I took a deep breath and stepped out. Mom's house looked the same, large, fancy, spotless on the outside. But the curtains were closed, and the air around it felt wrong, like the house itself was holding its breath. The front door opened before I could knock. My mother stood there, smiling that cold, perfect smile I had grown up fearing. "Lily," she said sweetly. Right on time. She stepped aside to let me in. I walked in slowly. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and strong perfume. Everything sparkled. Too clean. Too perfect. It felt staged. "Everyone's waiting," she said, leading me to the living room. I expected the same scene as last time. Rachel on the couch, Greg by the fireplace, Jason looking uncomfortable. But this time, there was something different. Two new men were seated in Grandpa's old armchairs. Middle-aged, well-dressed, confident, each holding a black leather briefcase. "Lily," my mother said, waving her hand like a game show host. "Meet Mr. Hale and Mr. Curtis. Advisors helping with the estate transition." I didn't sit. "Transition?" I asked. "Please," said one of the men, motioning to a wooden chair placed in the center of the room. It wasn't like before. The couch. The armchairs. No, this was a single chair. Alone. Facing everyone else. An interrogation seat. I sat. Slowly. Placing my brown folder on my lap. "Let's get to the point," I said. Rachel sat beside Mom. Greg stood with his arms crossed, leaning against the wall. No sign of Jason. Mr. Hale opened his briefcase. "We understand you're under a lot of pressure. Managing a large estate is difficult, especially for someone without full legal experience." "I have legal support," I said. "Of course," Mr. Curtis jumped in. "But this situation affects more than just you. It affects your family, your siblings, your mother, everyone who was close to your grandfather. He made his wishes clear." "Did he?" Rachel said softly. "You spent so much time alone with him. Who knows what you talked him into?" "That's not fair," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. Mr. Hale smiled. "We're here to offer a peaceful solution, a voluntary redistribution. You still keep a generous portion, say 20%, while your mother, as the most experienced family member, handles the rest." My jaw tightened. "Generous," I said. "He gave me everything. Because he trusted me." "He was sick," Rachel said. "He was smart," I snapped back. Greg stepped forward. "Lily, don't make this harder than it needs to be. These gentlemen also have documents prepared in case we need to challenge the will." I looked at Mr. Hale. "On what grounds?" "Undue influence," he said, "and mental decline. It would be easy to suggest that your time alone with him had an effect." "That's a lie." He shrugged. "Judges don't know what's true. They only know what's presented." I felt the heat rising in my chest. Mom leaned forward. "No one wants this to get ugly. Just sign the papers. Do the right thing. You can walk away with peace and a nice little sum." She smiled again. Fake. Cold. Familiar. I looked down at the document they slid toward me. It wasn't a fair agreement. It was a full surrender. I would give up control of the business, the properties, the investments. I would be left with a small payment, like a tip for a waitress. I flipped through the pages slowly. They watched me, thinking I would fold, but they didn't know what I had. When I reached the last page, I looked up. "You want me to sign this today?" "Yes," Mr. Curtis said, "so we can put this behind us." I smiled. Not the scared smile they were used to. This time it was Grandpa's smile. Calm. Certain. Unshakable. "Before I sign anything," I said, "I have some questions." My mother tensed. "Like what?" "Like, when exactly did you put a deposit down on the house in Florida?" Her face turned pale. What are you talking about? Greg told me. During a phone call. 6 months ago. When Grandpa's doctor gave the timeline, Greg's mouth opened. I didn't. I recorded the call. I opened my folder and pulled out a paper. January 15th, I said, laying it on the coffee table. You told Grandpa Jason had a medical emergency and needed $30,000. Rachel raised her eyebrows. Jason wasn't sick, I added. But your Instagram says you were on a cruise that week. Happy birthday to me. #blessed. I laid down another photo. And another. One from Cancun, when Mom said Rachel needed dental surgery. One from the mall, when she claimed the lights were out at home. Your grandfather kept a journal, I said calmly. Every dollar. Every lie. Rachel turned to Mom. Wait, are you serious? Shut up. My mother snapped. Mr. Hale leaned back in his chair. Mr. Curtis adjusted his tie. I pulled out one final envelope. This is a letter from Grandpa, written after his diagnosis. He gave it to George, his best friend, to give me when this happened. I read the last lines out loud. Stand firm. Be brave. I'm proud of you. Don't let them take what you've earned. The room was quiet. Then my mother stood up, furious. You think this proves anything? She hissed. This is war. No, I said, standing too. This is over. I picked up their papers and handed them back. I won't be signing this, or anything like it. Ever. Greg stepped forward, his face dark. You'll regret this. I looked him in the eye. Try me. Rachel stood up slowly. Lily, wait. I paused. I didn't know. About all this. I didn't know what she did. I searched her face. Was she lying? Or was that guilt? Then maybe, I said slowly, you should think about who you're defending. Jason appeared in the doorway, then breathless. He had just arrived. I'm going with Lily, he said clearly. I don't care what Mom says. I'm done pretending. Jason, my mother started. I'm done, he shouted. He turned to me. Let's go. We walked out, side by side. As we reached the car, Claire stepped out. Everything okay? Jason nodded. Better than ever, I said. Behind us, the door slammed. The sound of a family breaking. But maybe, also a new beginning. Claire drove us to a quiet cafe across town. It was small, with warm lights and soft music playing in the background. The kind of place where nobody was in a rush. The kind of place where you could sit and think. Jason and I took the corner table. Claire ordered us tea and sat across from me, tablet in hand, already reviewing everything that just happened. Jason still hadn't said much. He looked stunned, like someone had just pulled the ground from beneath his feet. His fingers kept tugging at the paper wrapper from the straw in his drink, twisting it tighter and tighter until it finally tore in half. I wanted to say something comforting, but I didn't have the right words. I was tired. My head felt heavy. My chest ached. Claire looked up from her screen. What they tried to do back there was very serious. I nodded. They brought fake advisors into a meeting and tried to pressure me into giving up the estate. They also made legal threats. Said you manipulated your grandfather. Claimed he wasn't thinking clearly. They can't prove that, I said. No, they can't, Claire replied. But that doesn't mean they won't try. And you did the right thing recording those conversations and bringing the journal. That's strong evidence. Jason finally spoke. They said we'd lose the house. That I'd lose college money if Lily didn't sign. They made me feel guilty for things I didn't even ask for. Claire turned to him gently. You were being emotionally manipulated. That's not your fault. Jason looked down again, ashamed. I don't have anywhere to go now. She said if I left with Lily, I could forget about being her son. I reached across the table and put my hand over his. Yes, you do have somewhere to go, I said. You're staying with me. For as long as you want. He blinked hard and gave a tiny nod. Claire leaned forward. There's something else we need to consider. If the threats continue, or if they attempt another stunt like today, we may need to file for a protective order. Jason looked up, alarmed. Like a restraining order? Yes, Claire said. But only if it becomes necessary. If she shows up at Lily's work again, or your apartment, or continues to call your contacts, we'll have options. I hated that it had come to this. Filing paperwork against my own mother? It felt unreal. But at the same time it was real. Too real. Let's talk about protecting the estate, Claire continued. We should file copies of the journal and the letter with probate court. The more documentation we provide, the harder it will be for them to challenge the will. I nodded. I'll bring the originals to your office. And Lily, she added, we also need to discuss the business itself. Your grandfather left you a company. It's been running on its own, but it won't run itself forever. I hadn't thought much about that yet. I've been so busy defending it, I said quietly. I haven't really thought about how to run it. Jason looked up. Maybe we could do it together. Claire smiled. That might not be a bad idea. We made a plan. The next few days, Jason and I spent time sorting through the store's documents. Grandpa had left files organized in neat drawers, all labeled in his handwriting. Taxes, employees, suppliers, expansion plans. He really had thought of everything. One evening, Jason found a dusty brown notebook tucked inside the ideas folder. Look at this, he said, holding it up. Inside were pages filled with Grandpa's thoughts. Not numbers or lists, but dreams. Notes about going green, building a department for eco-friendly materials, partnering with schools to teach kids about tools and home repairs. I read through it slowly, my chest tight. He had been planning a future. Not just for the business, but for us. I didn't know Grandpa cared about the environment, Jason said. He cared about doing the right thing, I replied, even if it wasn't popular. Jason smiled. I want to help make this happen. I looked at him. Really looked. Gone was the shy, unsure little brother. Sitting in front of me was someone braver than he knew. Someone growing. Then let's do it together, I said. We began meeting with the store managers. We visited the hardware shops Grandpa built from scratch. I introduced myself as the new owner. Some were surprised. Some were hesitant. But most were welcoming. I listened. I asked questions. Jason took notes. Bit by bit, we were learning. But just as things were starting to feel hopeful again, the silence broke. Late one night, I got a message on social media. No name. No profile picture. Just the words. You think you've won, but you haven't seen the worst of it yet. I didn't reply, but my hands were shaking. I showed Claire the next morning. She's trying to scare you, Claire said. It's intimidation, but we'll keep documenting it. A day later, Rachel called. I need to talk, she said. Can we meet? I hesitated. Alone, she added. Jason didn't like the idea. She stood by Mom this whole time. What if it's another trick? I don't think so, I said. She sounded different. We met at a cafe in the middle of town. A public place. Neutral ground. Rachel looked tired. Her makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. Her usual perfect hair was pulled into a loose bun. Thanks for coming, she said softly. I didn't say anything. She stirred her tea for a long time before speaking again. Mom doesn't know I'm here. I nodded. Figured. She's falling apart, Rachel said. Selling things. Drinking. Yelling all the time. She's not stable. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. And I meant it. I wasn't made of stone. She's still angry. Still blames you. Says you ruined everything. But I'm starting to wonder if maybe she ruined it herself. I looked at her carefully. Why are you really here? Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I miss my sister, she whispered. I miss Jason. I don't want to be on the wrong side of this anymore. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to hug her. Part of me wanted to run. I'm not asking for money, she said quickly. I swear. I just want to talk. Maybe fix things, if that's even possible. I looked down at my hands. My fingers were stiff. Rachel, I said. I can't pretend nothing happened. You stood by Mom while she attacked me. You helped spread lies. I know, she said, wiping her eyes. I was scared. And jealous. You always had Grandpa's attention. I thought if I helped Mom, she'd love me more. I didn't speak for a while. But in the silence, I remembered something Grandpa once said. Everyone deserves a chance to grow, if they're willing to do the work. I'm not ready to forgive, I said slowly. But I'm willing to talk. Rachel nodded, tears running down her face. That's all I'm asking. We left the cafe quietly. When I got back home, Jason was waiting. How'd it go? He asked. She's hurting, I said. But maybe she's finally waking up. He nodded. I hope so. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. Not because everything was fixed, but but because, for once, something felt possible. Healing. Real healing. It wouldn't come easy. It would take time. But maybe, just maybe, this was the start. A week after I met Rachel at the cafe, I got an email. It was short. No hello. No sign-off. Just one word in the subject line, truce. The message said, I've spent a year being angry. It hasn't changed anything except making me more bitter. Rachel says Jason is doing well and that you're rebuilding the business. I miss my children. If you're willing, I'd like to talk. No lawyers. No shouting. Just talk. It was signed, Mom. I read it twice. Then again. It was the first message I had ever gotten from her that didn't come with demands or threats or guilt. I stared at the screen, unsure what to feel. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part, a softer, more tired part, wanted to say yes. Jason was sitting on the floor folding laundry when I told him. She emailed you, he said, surprised. I nodded. He didn't say anything for a moment. Then he asked, Do you believe her? I don't know. She could be setting something up again. I thought of that too, I said. But it doesn't sound like the same person from before. It doesn't sound like war. Jason shrugged. Maybe she's finally tired of fighting. We both sat there in silence, the hum of the washing machine in the background. I called Rachel. Did you tell her to write me? I asked. Yes, Rachel admitted. But I didn't force her. She wanted to. She's been quieter lately. Less angry. She even started seeing someone. A new boyfriend. No, Rachel said. A therapist. That made me blink. A therapist? Yeah, she said. One of the counselors from her church helped her find someone. She's been going for a few weeks now. I leaned back against the couch. I wasn't sure what to make of that. She still has a long way to go, Rachel added quickly. She's still her. But something's changing. Slowly. That evening, after dinner, I opened my laptop and wrote a short reply. Okay. 1 meeting. Public place. 1 hour. She responded 10 minutes later with a location and a time. No emoji. No pushback. No tricks. Just, thank you. I'll be there. I met her 2 days later at a quiet restaurant not far from her house. When I walked in, I didn't recognize her at first. She wasn't wearing designer clothes. No big jewelry. No sunglasses. No loud perfume. Just a simple blouse, pants, and a small handbag. Her hair was pulled back into a low ponytail, and for the first time in a long time, she looked normal. She stood up when she saw me. Lily, she said softly. Hi. We sat. There was a long silence, just the clinking of forks from other tables. I didn't touch my glass of water. Neither did she. She was the first to speak. I won't waste your time, she said. I know I've said horrible things. I've done worse. I pushed you. I threatened you. I made you feel like the enemy when you were only following your grandfather's wishes. I didn't interrupt. She continued, I've been trying to understand why I am the way I am. Why I feel so angry all the time. The therapist says I confuse control with safety. That when I lose control, I panic. I lash out, especially at people I feel threatened by. Threatened by me? I asked. She nodded. You've always been calm. Sure of yourself. That scared me. You remind me of him. Of your grandfather. And for a long time I hated that. She looked down. I was jealous. Of how much he loved you. I could feel it. Even when he didn't say it. I knew he trusted you in ways he never trusted me. I swallowed hard. He didn't trust your choices. I know, she said quickly. And he had good reasons not to. She pulled something out of her purse. A folded piece of paper. I wrote this in therapy, she said, placing it on the table. It's not everything. But it's a start. I didn't open it yet. I just looked at her. I'm not here to ask for anything, she said. No money. No changes to the will. Nothing. I miss my children. I felt a lump in my throat. She leaned forward. You can hate me. I wouldn't blame you. But I don't want to fight anymore. I nodded slowly. Neither do I. We sat in silence for a few more moments. Before I left, I said, I'm not ready to forget what happened. But I'm open to seeing if this is real. She smiled. It wasn't wide. It wasn't fake. Just soft. Thank you. I walked out of that restaurant with the paper in my hand and a strange feeling in my chest, something between peace and sadness. That night, I read her letter. It was messy, full of crossed-out words. Some sentences didn't make sense, but I could feel she meant it. For the first time, she was trying. Jason and Rachel were shocked. "Are you serious?" Jason asked. "Mom actually apologized." Rachel just shook her head. I didn't think she had it in her. We agreed to take it slow. No big family dinners. No fake smiles. Just little steps. Later that week, Mom came to one of Grandpa's old stores during the grand opening of our new eco-friendly showroom. She stood quietly in the back. She didn't say much, but she stayed, and she clapped when I gave my speech. I noticed her eyes looked misty when I talked about Grandpa. Jason stood beside me during the event, helping with customers, explaining our new products. Rachel came too, volunteering at the welcome table. It was the first time in a long time that all three of us were in the same room without anger. Afterward, we had dinner together. Nothing fancy, just burgers at a diner nearby. But it was peaceful. No fighting. No yelling. Just us. That night, Jason and I sat on the balcony of our apartment, looking out at the city lights. "Do you think she's really changed?" he asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. "But I think she's trying." Jason nodded. "That's something." The months that followed were filled with quiet changes. Rachel started volunteering at a local shelter. Jason started taking college classes in business. I began meeting with new suppliers and expanding Grandpa's company just like he dreamed. Claire helped me set up a foundation in his name, giving scholarships to kids who wanted to learn about small business, especially those who came from families like ours, complicated ones. And Mom, well, she kept going to therapy. She sold her fancy car, moved into a smaller place. She even got a part-time job at a floral shop, something she hadn't done in years. We weren't a perfect family, but we were trying, and that was enough for now. 1 year after Grandpa passed, we held a small memorial at the original store. We lit candles, shared stories, and each of us took a turn saying something. When it was my turn, I looked around the room. Jason, Rachel, Mom, our staff, neighbors, people Grandpa had helped, people who had worked for him, people who remembered what kind of man he was. I took a deep breath. "I was scared when Grandpa left everything to me," I said. "Scared I'd fail, scared I'd break, but I didn't. Not because I'm strong, but because he gave me something stronger than money." I paused. He gave me values. He taught me how to build, how to protect, how to love people through action, not words. I looked at Mom. She nodded. "And he gave me all of you," I added, voice shaking. "My family. Even when we're broken, we still matter." We stood in silence for a moment. Then Jason clapped. Then Rachel. Then the room. And I felt it. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't carrying everything alone. The day after Grandpa's memorial, I woke up to find a letter on the kitchen counter. It was folded in half, and Jason had written my name on it in his handwriting. I picked it up and sat by the window where the sunlight poured through the glass. I could hear the city starting its day outside. Cars honking, kids laughing, the distant hum of life. Inside the letter, Jason had written, "Lily, I just wanted to say thank you. For everything. For standing up to Mom. For protecting Grandpa's wishes. For giving me a place to stay. For showing me what family can actually look like when it's healthy. You gave me peace. I didn't know I needed it until I had it. I know I have a long way to go, but I want to keep learning. Not just about business, but about life. About how to be a better son, a better brother, and one day, maybe a better man. Thanks for not giving up on me." It was signed, "Your little brother always." I pressed the letter against my chest and closed my eyes. For the first time in a long time, the tears that came weren't from pain. They were from something softer, something healing. Jason had started his business courses at the community college. He was attending part-time, so he could still help at the store. Every evening, he'd come home with a new fact or idea to share. "Did you know," he said one night while we were washing dishes, "that more than half of new small businesses fail within the first 5 years?" "Yeah," I said. "That's why planning is everything." "Grandpa really beat the odds, didn't he?" "He didn't beat them," I said. "He outworked them." Jason smiled. I want to do that too. You will. Rachel was changing too. Not all at once, but little by little. She started spending less time online and more time volunteering. She texted me photos of a shelter, kids painting walls, women learning to sew, laughter echoing in the background. I think I want to go back to school, she told me one day when we met for coffee. Maybe something with social work, something that helps people. That's amazing, I said. I used to think I needed to look rich to feel important, she added. Now I just want to feel useful. I saw Mom now and then. We didn't talk every day. We didn't pretend to be close. But we were polite, careful. One Saturday afternoon, she invited Jason and me over for tea. When we arrived, she had set the table outside in her small garden. A pot of tea, 3 cups, and a plate of homemade cookies, which surprised me because I didn't think she remembered how to bake. I used your grandmother's recipe, she said almost shyly. I found her old notebook in the attic. We sat. We sipped. It wasn't perfect. There were long pauses, some awkward moments, but there was also peace. I want to apologize again, she said softly, looking at Jason and then me. I know I hurt you both, and I can't undo what I did, but I'm trying to become someone you're not afraid to answer the phone for. Jason smiled gently. We see it, Mom. We do. She looked at me. And I hope someday you can forgive me, Lily. I'm working on it, I said honestly. And I'm glad you're working on you. That night, I told Claire everything. I don't know how to feel, I admitted. She's trying. She's softer. But I still flinch when my phone rings and it's her name. Claire nodded slowly. That's normal. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's learning to live with the truth. I don't want to live angry anymore. You're not, she said. You're healing. That's different. At the office, the store managers started calling me by name instead of Mr. Matthews' granddaughter. They asked my opinion. They listened when I spoke. I could feel the shift. This wasn't just Grandpa's business anymore. It was becoming mine. Jason helped me start a pilot program for young people, a training course on basic tools, repairs, and small business tips. We partnered with local schools and community centers. We offered scholarships from the new foundation Claire helped us build. The day we opened our first class, Jason stood beside me in the small training hall with 20 students sitting in front of us. He whispered, I think Grandpa would have liked this. I nodded. He would have loved it. We had just finished welcoming the group when someone entered the hall late. It was George, Grandpa's best friend. He had a cane now and walked slower, but he stood tall, his eyes shining with pride. I wouldn't miss this, he said as I hugged him. He looked around the room. Your grandfather always wanted to teach more than just business. He wanted to teach life. We showed him around, introduced him to the students, took pictures. That night, he wrote us a letter, just like Grandpa used to. You've turned a painful inheritance into a living legacy, he wrote. And that's rare. Most people just take the money and run. You planted it. You watered it. And now it's growing into something beautiful. I framed the letter and hung it in the new community room at the store. Months passed. The foundation grew. The business thrived. Our little family, still bruised, found its rhythm again. Then one evening, as the sky turned orange outside the shop window, Ethan dropped to one knee in front of me while we were locking up. Lily, he said, you've carried so much weight alone. Let me carry some of it with you. I stared at him, stunned, shaking, and then I smiled. Yes, I whispered. He stood and wrapped his arms around me, and I laughed, a real, full laugh, right there in front of the shop Grandpa built from scratch. Later that night, when Jason found out, he hooped and did a ridiculous dance around the living room. Rachel came over the next day with a bouquet she picked from her own small garden. Mom called and cried a little on the phone. You're really doing it, she said. You're building something beautiful. I had a great teacher, I told her. Our wedding was small, family only. But this time, family actually felt safe. As we stood under the arch Grandpa built years ago for a local fundraiser, the one I found in storage and cleaned up for the ceremony, I looked out at the people who remained. Jason, Rachel, Mom, George, our employees, a few neighbors, and Ethan, standing beside me, holding my hand like it was made just for his. And I knew This was it. This was the real inheritance Grandpa left behind. Not the business, not the money, not the house, but the strength to keep going, the courage to stand up, the faith to believe things can change, and the heart to build something new. A week after the wedding, Ethan and I moved into Grandpa's house. It felt strange at first. For so long, I had avoided this house. Every corner held a memory. Every creaking floorboard sounded like the echo of a time I wasn't ready to face. But now, with Ethan carrying in boxes and Jason helping paint the guest room, it didn't feel like a place filled with ghosts anymore. It felt like home. I left Grandpa's study just the way he liked it, almost. I replaced the heavy chair with one that didn't squeak, moved his favorite photo to the center of the desk, and hung our foundation's first event poster on the wall right beside it. Jason and I started calling it the Heart Room. We'd sit there every Sunday evening and talk about what we wanted to build next. "Lily," he said one night, stretching out on the carpet, "what if we opened another store? But like a completely different one." "Different how?" I asked. "Like a store that only sells eco-friendly home tools, stuff made from recycled material, solar-powered things, that kind of thing." I raised an eyebrow. "That's a big step." "Yeah," he said. "But isn't that what Grandpa wanted? He kept saying the world was changing, that people need options." I leaned back in my chair. "You really think we can pull it off?" Jason looked at me with his usual goofy smile. "I think if we don't try, we'll never know." He had a point. That night, we started sketching the idea out. A small second store. Same name. New mission. And the best part, we decided to name it after Grandpa. Matthew's Green Tools, built to last. Claire helped us with the legal side of launching a second branch. We pitched the idea at a small business summit, and to our surprise, we were offered a grant by a local councilwoman who had grown up buying nails and paint from Grandpa's first shop. "I used to sit on those stools by the front window," she told me. "Your grandfather gave me free paint for my school projects. That store made me believe I could build things." We both cried during the interview. Sometimes, the past comes back in the best ways. A few weeks later, as we were preparing to launch the new store, I got a knock on the front door. I opened it and froze. It was Mom. She was holding a brown paper bag and wearing an apron with smudges of flour on it. "Hi," she said, sounding nervous. "I baked banana bread. Thought you might like some." I stepped aside, surprised but curious. "Come in." Ethan was upstairs. Jason was at the store. The house was quiet. She sat on the couch, holding the bag in her lap like it was a fragile egg. "I heard about the new store," she said. "Rachel told me, and I saw it in the paper." I nodded. She smiled. "You're doing amazing things, Lily. You really are." "Thank you." There was a long pause. She looked around the house. "I haven't been inside here since before the reading of the will." I didn't say anything. She looked at the staircase. "That creak on the third step, it's still there." I smiled slightly. "Yeah, I never fixed it. It used to drive your grandfather crazy." She laughed, then stopped. "I wish he could see this," she said, her voice softer. "All of it." "I think he does," I whispered. She looked down at her hands. "I'm sorry again, Lily. I know I've said it before, but I need to keep saying it. I need to keep showing it." "You're doing better," I said. "You've come far." "I still get angry sometimes," she admitted. "Sometimes I hear a voice in my head that says, 'That should have been yours, Patricia,' and I have to breathe through it." I appreciated her honesty more than I expected. "But now," she continued, "I remind myself that what Grandpa gave you wasn't stolen from me. It was given. And that's different." I nodded. It took me a long time to believe that, too. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded photo, one I hadn't seen in years. It was of me, sitting on Grandpa's lap, holding a wooden hammer with my name carved on it. He looked so proud. I looked so small. "He always believed in you," she said. I didn't understand it then. But now, I'm starting to. I carefully took the photo and ran my fingers over it. "Thanks," I said. Before she left, she stood at the door and turned to me. "I know I wasn't a good mother, Lily, and I may never be the mother you needed, but I want to be someone better than I was." I nodded. "Keep trying. That's all any of us can do." When she left, I stood at the doorway for a long time, the photo still in my hand. Later that week, we had the grand opening for Matthew's Green Tools. Jason wore a green tie. I wore Grandpa's old watch. Ethan held my hand the whole time. Mom came and stood quietly in the crowd, clapping with everyone else. Rachel spoke during the ceremony. She said, "This store isn't just about tools. It's about second chances, about rebuilding, about hope." She was right. After the ribbon was cut, we all gathered inside. We played Grandpa's favorite old songs in the background. Customers walked through the aisles, smiling at the bamboo hammers, recycled toolboxes, and solar lanterns. An old man walked up to me, holding one of the products. "I used to work for Harold Matthews," he said. "Back in the early days. He gave me my first job. Said if I showed up on time and kept my word, I'd always have a place there." He looked around the store, eyes shiny. "You're doing good, kid." I smiled. "Thank you." He held my shoulder for a second. He'd be proud. That evening, as the sun went down, Jason and I stood in the parking lot looking at the new sign. "I still can't believe we did it," he said. "We did," I said. "And it's just the beginning." Ethan joined us, wrapping his arms around my shoulders. We stood there quietly, watching the last few customers leave. I felt Grandpa with us. Not like a ghost, not like a whisper, but like a shadow we stood inside of. Something strong, something steady, something that held us up. At home that night, Jason made a toast with apple cider in the kitchen. "To Grandpa," he said, "the man who gave us the tools and trusted us to build." We all raised our glasses. "To Grandpa," we said together. And for the first time I felt full of peace, full of purpose, full of love. A few weeks after the new store opened, something strange happened. I was in the office, helping a customer return a broken solar light, when Ethan walked in with his phone in his hand and a puzzled look on his face. "Lily," he said quietly, "you need to see this." He turned the screen toward me. It was a post from a gossip blog, one of those sites that writes half-truths and rumors for clicks. The headline made my heart skip. "Family Feud turns businesswoman into millionaire. Did she steal her grandfather's legacy?" Right below it was a photo of me. Not one I'd taken. One they must have found online, a screenshot from the foundation's website where I stood in front of our first store, smiling beside a group of scholarship students. I took Ethan's phone and started reading the article. It was full of quotes from anonymous sources, twisting everything, saying I pushed my grandfather into changing his will, that my unstable mother had been robbed of her rightful inheritance, and that I was exploiting a dead man's business to play the hero. Each word cut deeper than the last. There was even a line suggesting I had manipulated my sick grandfather into making a decision under stress. I felt like throwing up. Ethan took the phone back gently. "Don't read the comments." But I already had. They were worse. "She looks fake. Probably slept her way into the money. Poor mom. Imagine being betrayed by your own daughter. She'll burn through it all in 5 years." I sat down in the chair behind the counter. My legs couldn't hold me. "Who would do this?" I whispered. Ethan hesitated, then said, "Your mother has friends. Old friends. Bitter ones." My throat tightened. "She promised she was done." "She might be," he said carefully, "but not everyone around her wants peace." Just then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Claire. I saw the article. "Don't panic. We can handle this. Don't respond publicly. I'll be at your house by 6 p.m. I showed the message to Ethan, and he nodded. "She's right. Don't post anything. Don't give them more to twist." I left Jason in charge of the shop for the day and drove straight home. My hand shook the whole way. I kept seeing that headline in my mind, hearing those fake words over and over like a broken radio. Was this how people saw me? Was everything I built already being turned into a lie? When Claire arrived that evening, she was calm, professional, and ready with a plan. "First," she said, setting her bag on the dining table, "we find out who leaked the story. I've already contacted a media lawyer. If it was your mother or anyone acting on her behalf, we can issue a cease and desist." "What if it wasn't her?" I asked. "What if it was someone else?" "Then we shut that door too," she said. "We've dealt with worse." I nodded. I trusted her. Jason came home later that night, holding his phone. "Is it true?" he asked. I looked at him. "Is what true?" "That mom's church friend, Mrs. Drew, is the one who gave the story to the blog. Rachel told me. I sat down slowly. Of course, Mrs. Drew had always been one of Mom's biggest supporters. The kind who smiled sweetly in your face and then whispered poison behind your back. She came by Mom's place 2 days ago, Jason continued. I guess she wasn't happy that Mom forgave us. I felt a mix of anger and sadness. Even when Mom was trying to change, people from her past were still pulling her back into old patterns. Should I call her? I asked out loud. Should I ask her to stop this? No, Claire said firmly. Let me handle it. You've spent too much of your life being the peacemaker, Lily. It's okay to let someone else protect you now. I nodded, but it still sat heavy on my chest. That night, I lay awake in bed while Ethan read beside me. I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining strangers reading that article, judging me, thinking they knew the truth. What if this ruins everything? I whispered. Ethan placed the book down and turned to me. Then we start again. From wherever we are. Together. But the article is noise, he said. Lily, what you've done, what you're doing, it's bigger than gossip. You've helped people. You've healed your family. You've created something real. That matters more than any story. I let him hold me until the panic faded. The next morning, I walked into the store and found a card on the front counter. It was handwritten. Thank you for giving my son a job. He finally believes in himself again. Some people write lies, but your work tells the truth. It wasn't signed. I read it 3 times. Then I slipped it into my coat pocket and felt a little stronger. Later that day, the blog took down the article. Claire sent me a short message. Handled. I replied with just one word. Thank you. A week later, Rachel called me. Mom wants to talk to you, she said. I hesitated. About the article, Rachel added. She's really upset. She says she had no idea. I agreed to meet her. Just me and her. No tension. No big speech. We sat on a park bench under a quiet tree. She looked tired again. The soft kind of tired that comes from deep regret. I didn't tell her to write that article, she said right away. But I know she did it because of me. Because of how I used to talk about you. Because of the lies I let people believe. I know, I said softly. I'm sorry, she added, voice shaking. This mess, it's part of me too. I placed my hand over hers. I'm not angry, I said, but I'm tired of fighting. I want to live in peace. I want that too. We sat there in silence for a while, watching birds pick at breadcrumbs nearby. Then Mom said something I didn't expect. I've been thinking about writing a public letter. To who? I asked. To anyone who saw that article. To something honest. Not a defense. Not an attack. Just the truth. I studied her face. She meant it. If you want to, I said, that's up to you. 2 days later, she sent me a copy. It read, My name is Patricia. I'm the mother of the woman this blog recently attacked. I want you to know that the story you read doesn't reflect the truth. I know because I was the one who almost ruined her. Lily didn't steal from anyone. She protected what her grandfather built when no one else would. She saved our family from our own bad choices. I was angry. I was bitter. But I was wrong. Lily, I'm sorry. I'm proud of you. I hope one day everyone will see what I finally see now. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. And sometimes, something is enough to start again. A month after the article came down and Mom's public letter was shared, something strange started happening. People began stopping me on the street. At first, it was just polite nods or warm smiles from strangers. Then it turned into actual conversations. Are you Lily? One woman asked while I was walking out of the store one morning. Yes, I said slowly. She held out her hand. Thank you. For what? She smiled. For not fighting dirty. For choosing peace. I didn't know what to say. I just smiled back. More people came in the following weeks. Customers, neighbors, even people from other towns. Some of them just wanted to shake my hand. Others asked how to start their own business or how to talk to their families again. They didn't see me as the girl from the gossip blog anymore. They saw me as someone who had survived something messy and came out stronger. Jason started calling me the quiet fire. Why? I asked one night while we were restocking shelves. Because you don't shout, Lily, he said. You just keep burning. Calm and steady, but strong. I laughed, but something about that stuck with me. Claire helped us start a new section on our website, a place for stories from people who had been through family battles, inheritance drama, and rebuilding after betrayal. We called it the Second Foundation. We let people write anonymously if they wanted. The letters came pouring in. Some made me cry. Some made me angry. Some made me grateful that, even after everything, I wasn't alone. One night, I sat in the office with a stack of printed letters from people who said they saw themselves in my story. Ethan walked in with 2 mugs of tea and set one beside me. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, just overwhelmed. "In a good way?" "Yes," I whispered. It's like all the pain, all the silence that finally turned into something useful. He kissed my forehead. "You're helping people, Lily. That's rare. That's beautiful." Later that week, Jason came into the office holding an envelope. "This came for you," he said. It had no return address, just my name written in bold, sharp handwriting. I opened it slowly, nervous. Inside was a folded letter. No threats, no anger, just 5 words. "Thank you for not giving up." That's all it said, but I knew who it was from. Mom never said anything about it, but the way she looked at me the next time we had dinner, eyes soft, posture relaxed, told me enough. She was still healing, and so was I. A few days later, Rachel called. "Can you come with me to something?" she asked. "What is it?" "Just something important." I agreed. She picked me up in a small silver car, not the shiny kind she used to dream of, but a practical one she bought with savings from her new job at the shelter. We drove in silence for a while. Then we pulled up in front of a small building with a sign that said, Evening Light Community Center. "What are we doing here?" I asked. Rachel turned off the engine and looked at me nervously. "I signed up for classes," she said. "Night school. For social work. I'm starting next month." My eyes widened. "Rachel, I wanted you to be here when I registered." She reached over and grabbed my hand. "You always thought I had more in me," she whispered. "I want to believe that too." I hugged her so tight she laughed through her tears. Inside the building, we sat in folding chairs while a kind woman named Mrs. Adkins explained the enrollment process. Rachel's hands trembled as she signed the final form. When it was done, she looked at me and whispered, "This feels more real than any party dress I ever wore." I squeezed her hand. "It is." That night, on our way home, Rachel asked, "Do you think I'm too old to start over?" I shook my head. "No. I think starting over is what makes you brave." Jason surprised us all by finishing his first semester at college with top grades. We threw him a small dinner party at the house. Mom even brought a homemade cake with "You did it, Jay" written in shaky frosting. Jason turned red when we sang to him, but his smile stretched from ear to ear. After everyone had eaten, he stood up and cleared his throat. "I used to think being part of a family meant pretending things were okay," he said. "But Lily showed me that being a family means telling the truth, even when it's hard." He looked at me, his eyes shining. "I'm proud to be your brother." I wiped my eyes and hugged him hard. That night, while washing dishes, Mom came up beside me. "Can I help?" she asked. I nodded. We worked in silence for a while. Then she said, "I watched you tonight, Lily. The way Jason looks at you. The way Rachel smiles now. It's because of you." I shook my head. "No. They did the work. But you made the space," she said. "You made it safe." I looked at her. "I never wanted to replace you, Mom." She nodded slowly. "I know. I was just too proud to see it before." She placed a plate on the rack and whispered, "Thank you for not shutting the door on me." I didn't respond with words. I just took her hand, and we kept washing. Weeks passed. The stores grew. The foundation got invited to speak at small business events. I gave my first real speech in front of a large crowd and only stuttered once. They clapped. They stood. And afterward, a woman came up to me with tears in her eyes. "My daughter and I haven't spoken in 3 years," she said. "But after hearing you, I'm going to call her." That night, I walked into Grandpa's old study, sat in his chair, and whispered, "It's working. I'm still scared sometimes, but it's working." I opened his journal and flipped to the final page again. "The true measure of wealth isn't what you have, but what you do with it." I traced the words with my finger, and for the first time, I felt like I had done exactly what he asked. It started with a phone call on a quiet Thursday afternoon. I was in the shop's back office, sorting through receipts, when my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. Hello. Hi, a voice said. Is this Lily Matthews? Yes. Who's this? My name is Mrs. Hardy. I'm a lawyer. I represent the estate of Raymond Doyle. I froze. That name sounded familiar. Too familiar. Raymond Doyle. I asked. That was my grandfather's old business partner. Yes, she said. I'm reaching out because Mr. Doyle passed away last week. He left something behind. For you. I felt my heart slow. Something for me? Yes, she continued. A letter. And an old agreement between him and your grandfather. He asked me to deliver both in person. 2 days later, she showed up at the shop. She was a short woman with white hair and a kind smile. She wore a green scarf that reminded me of something my grandma used to wear. We sat down in the small meeting room, and she placed a brown envelope on the table. I won't stay long, she said gently. But Mr. Doyle asked me to pass this to you if anything happened to him. He said it would make sense once you read it. I nodded and thanked her. She left quietly. I stared at the envelope for a long time. Then I opened it. Inside was a letter written in shaky handwriting. Lily, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. I know I don't deserve your attention, and you probably don't even remember me well. But once upon a time, your grandfather and I were like brothers. We built this thing from nothing. 2 poor boys with a hammer, a dream, and a beat-up truck. And we made it work. For years. But I got greedy. I let money change me. I started hiding things. Shifting money. Making deals without Harold's permission. He found out, and instead of dragging me through court, he gave me a choice: walk away quietly and never return. I left, and I stayed gone. But I never stopped feeling the weight of it. Your grandfather gave me a second chance, even when I didn't deserve one. Years later, when I heard about what your mother tried to do with the will, I wanted to reach out, but I didn't have the courage. So instead, I made a plan. Enclosed is the agreement Harold and I signed before our partnership ended. There's a piece of land, a small place in the next town. We bought it together in 1987. He never used it, never sold it. It's yours now. Both of you wanted to build. Maybe this helps. I'm sorry for the past. I hope this helps your future. Raymond Doyle. I sat there in silence. A piece of land, a forgotten agreement, and a man who once betrayed my grandfather now trying to make things right in his final breath. I took a deep breath and opened the second paper. It was a deed, signed and official. The land was just outside of town, a half-acre lot with a small warehouse. I called Jason right away. Can you meet me at the old back room? I asked. On my way. When he got there, I showed him the letter. He read it twice. You think this is real? He asked. It's legal, I said. Claire's already on her way to look it over. He leaned back in his chair, shaking his head. The past keeps dropping surprises on us, doesn't it? I smiled. This one feels different. Later that week, Jason and I drove out to the land. It was rough, overgrown with weeds. The warehouse had rusted doors and cracked windows. But it was solid. Strong bones, as Grandpa would say. We walked through the space slowly. This could be something, Jason whispered. Like a training center. A real one. Exactly what I was thinking. We brought Claire out 2 days later. She said the deed was clean. Ours to keep. We named it the Matthews Learning Yard. We cleared the land. Painted the walls. Got volunteers. Applied for grants. Rachel helped design the programs. A mix of trade skills, entrepreneurship, and conflict resolution. We can teach people how to fix things, she said one day. Not just tools, but themselves. Her words stayed with me. The first day the center opened, a group of teenagers came in. Most of them had dropped out of school. Some were quiet. Some were angry. One had a black eye. We welcomed them all. Jason stood at the front, nervous but excited. I used to think I was a screw-up, he told them. I thought I'd never be more than someone's mistake. But then someone gave me a job, a chance, a place to start again. He pointed at me. I stood in the back, holding back tears. She believed in me before I did, he said. So I'm going to believe in you. They clapped. Some even smiled. That night, we sat outside the building under the stars. Rachel passed around juice boxes and leftover snacks. Mom arrived late. She walked quietly through the back gate and joined us without saying much. But her smile was soft. She hugged Rachel first. Then me. Then Jason. "I saw the newspaper," she whispered. "You're changing lives." I nodded. "We're trying." "No," she said. "You're doing." Ethan came later with his guitar. He sang an old folk song Grandpa used to hum while sanding shelves in the garage. Everyone joined in, even the kids. I sat there, wrapped in a blanket, and looked around. The pain we came from was still real, still heavy, but the healing we were building, together, was stronger. Before we left that night, I walked into the empty classroom and left something on the wall. It was Grandpa's final journal page, framed in wood from his old workbench. The true measure of wealth isn't what you have, but what you do with it. I turned off the lights and closed the door behind me. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was finishing something. I felt like I was just getting started. A year passed. 1 full year since Grandpa left us. 1 full year since the will was read, and everything I thought I knew about my family, my place, my future, changed forever. A lot had happened in that time. Some of it broke us. Some of it healed us. All of it shaped us. The foundation now helped over 30 families. Some were small businesses trying to rise from scratch. Others were single mothers like mine, looking for a second chance. The store was still running, both branches actually, and Jason had become a full-time operations manager. He even wore a name badge now, though he still hated being called sir. Rachel was halfway through her studies. She was already working part-time at a community center across town. I once caught her speaking to a group of teenage girls about making better choices in life. I cried watching her. Not because she was perfect, but because she was finally trying, truly trying, to live beyond her past. And Mom, she had started baking. Not just banana bread, but all kinds of things. Cookies, cupcakes, even meat pies, the ones Grandpa used to buy from the old corner store. She gave them out at events. She even started taking orders. Sometimes, people would ask her, "Aren't you Lily's mom?" And she would smile and say, "Yes, I am." There was pride in her voice now. Not shame. Not guilt. Just love. We still had our moments. Disagreements. Awkward silences. But we had something else too, honesty. That was new. Ethan and I were still in the same house, Grandpa's house. Our house now. Every room told a story. And every story reminded me that even the deepest wounds could leave behind something beautiful. One evening, I was standing in the kitchen when I saw the porch light flicker. Jason came in from outside, holding a box. "This came for you," he said. "No return address." He shook his head. "Just said private." I opened it slowly. Inside was a small wooden hammer. My breath caught in my throat. It was carved with the words, "Keep building." No name. No explanation. Just that. I turned it over in my hands. The handle was smooth, like it had been held many times. It reminded me of the one I held in the picture from when I was small, sitting on Grandpa's lap in his workshop. There was a note under it. "This belonged to your grandfather. He asked me to send it to you if I ever found the courage. Took me too long. But I'm doing it now. Keep making him proud." I didn't know who sent it. Maybe one of Grandpa's old friends. Maybe someone from his past trying to do the right thing. But it didn't matter. The message was clear. Keep building. That night, I walked to Grandpa's old study. The heart room. I placed the hammer on the desk, right beside the framed quote and the photo of him and me. Then I sat down and wrote something in my journal. I had never shown anyone that journal before. But I was ready now. I wrote, "This all started with a will. But it ended with a choice. A choice to fight for something bigger than myself. To forgive what could have broken me. To believe in what could be rebuilt." I closed the book gently. Outside the room, I could hear Ethan laughing with Jason. Rachel was on a video call with one of her study groups. Mom was humming in the kitchen. The oven timer dinged. Life was not perfect. But it was good. It was real. We decided to hold a remembrance event on the anniversary of Grandpa's passing. A celebration, not a mourning. People came from all over. Neighbors, customers, foundation families, even former rivals. There was music, food, laughter, and stories. So many stories. One man stood up and said, "Harold once gave me a free hammer when I was broke. Told me to use it wisely. I built my shed with that hammer. I built my life." A woman shared how Grandpa gave her daughter her first job. A boy told how Grandpa taught him how to ride a bike in the parking lot behind the store. Then it was my turn. I walked up to the small wooden platform, holding the carved hammer. I took a deep breath. When my grandfather passed, I began, he didn't just leave me money. He left me memories. He left me a mirror, one that showed me everything, good and bad, that lived inside this family. People listened. Some nodded. Some wiped tears. I've learned that inheritance isn't only about land, or money, or buildings. It's about values. About what you fight for when no one's clapping. About what you carry when no one's watching. I raised the hammer gently. "This," I said, "is more than a tool. It's a reminder that the work isn't over. That love is work. Forgiveness is work. Healing is work." A quiet filled the air. Then applause. Long, steady, warm. After the event, I stayed behind to clean up. Mom walked over and took the broom from my hand. "Let me," she said. I laughed. "You sure?" "I'm sure." As we swept up together, she looked at me and said, "I've never been more proud of you." I looked at her, this woman who once stood between me and everything I thought I deserved. Now standing beside me, I smiled. "Thank you." We swept in silence after that. But it wasn't empty. It was full. Full of memories, of lessons, of grace. As the last table was folded and the lights were turned off, I walked to the door and looked back. I could almost see Grandpa standing in the back, arms crossed, that crooked smile on his face. I whispered, "We're okay now." Then I stepped outside, into the night, into the future, into whatever came next. Sometimes, family isn't about who you share blood with, it's about who stays, who shows up, and who helps you heal. Thank you for watching this powerful journey of love, loss, forgiveness, and legacy. If this story touched your heart or reminded you of someone you care about, don't forget to like, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments. And for more emotional, deep, and unforgettable stories like this one, subscribe to Spesh Stories, where every story speaks to the soul. We've only just begun.